got 5 minutes. Woo!
All right. Hi guys, you're watching the Forum First podcast. Tonight we have a guest, Roy Crowdis. He came to us from Royal Oak initially. He's a transplant, just like we had last podcast with Ellery. And we actually just got off the turf. We just finished a workout. Well, not finished a workout, but we just did our workout, finished at 7:30. Let's break it down. I think we've all did it today. We had a never-ending L cycle 2 in the beginning that took a half hour. But what did you think about it? What was difficult? What was...
I didn't think the L cycle 2 was too bad. A lot of squat toes, a lot of jumping straight up and down. I thought the Delora gauntlet would be pretty straightforward, but doing all those bridge tasks started to, I think, take its toll and slow me down a little bit. By the time I got to thrust to frog, it was definitely I was pretty winded, and it made it tough.
It was a lot of jumping. So you got Delora is essentially, it's like a jumping push, but then you got your squat jumps and then thrust to frog. If you're someone who got that far and then compound it with your squantos, that's a lot of cardio. For someone like me, I'm getting gassed pretty quickly. But
those 2 squat jumps right after the Delora were tough.
Tough because your hamstrings were tight.
Yeah.
From doing all that. And we were going with a group of guys, not a group of guys, a group of people, but the 2 new guys, they were, I think it was their first time or second time on the board. Have you had Mark?
I did their initiation.
Okay. Yeah. So they're getting it, and it's cool to hear the perspective of like someone who's brand new. And we got like 2-3 minutes left, and he's like, "Hey, Mike, I think I'm gonna score 400 today." Like, you know what I mean? Like they're chasing that score, and they got that dangling carrot that they're chasing.
Sure.
But it's kind of cool to hear those perspectives where it's like, I'm trying to go after that score.
So there were 4 circuits today. And
Don't hit me with that. And
you labeled them with letters. There's 4 circuits tomorrow, and you didn't put letters by them.
It depends.
You want to talk about that?
I'd have to see the motherboard, but if it's obvious, like, okay, it's in order, sure. A, B, C, D, then I'm not going to label it. But sometimes it's like staggered a little bit, and it's because I've gotten requests from people being a little bit picky. I think you should be able to figure out, I think, where it goes, but now I'm just trying to make it obvious. If it's an obvious linear like left to right, I don't know how I did it, and I don't really feel like going to get it. But
I don't remember.
Yeah, and sometimes I do it like, what's her name? Kathy just corrected it the other day. It was like A, C, B, D, and I didn't format it correctly, so that would have been a disaster. So let's dive into kind of what there's a lot that you kind of bring to the table. In terms of statistics, give me a little bit of background as to what you studied in college,
sure,
and what it is, kind of what you've got in front of you.
Okay, absolutely. So, so I have a bachelor's degree in mathematics, and I have a master's degree in applied statistics. So I like math. I love numbers. So when I kind of stumbled on CIFAS and got into it, maybe 5 or 10 runs, and started to understand a little bit more about ROQ and the slope and the numbers. It just kind of clicked for me, like, hey, I'm a competitive person. I like to work out, and look, hey, there's a score here associated with it. So, so probably about 10 runs in, kind of my partner in crime, Pilar, and I started to take notes on the tasks. We'd get in the car after the workout and be like, okay, we did all these new tasks. What are they? And we'd start writing them down. And initially, it was really just so we'd kind of know next time the difference between like a 2-step and a Sioux-step, or those kind of things, and also to kind of learn the circuit, so that we weren't asking the pro after every task, okay, what's this next task, what's this next task, just to make it a little quicker for us. And then as I got to know the tasks more, I started to dive deeper into like the mod index and tried to estimate for each task, like how long it would take. So before each workout, I write up.
So have you seen this?
This.
Okay.
Yeah, so I write this up for every workout, and it's kind of each circuit, how many times I'm going to do each task, and kind of my focus now, where, like I said, it used to be on kind of knowing the descriptions of tasks and the circuits. Now it's on how long it takes me to do a task, where the transitions are between a plate task and a non-plate task, so I'm kind of quicker.
I know, is that what those P's stand for?
Yeah, that's what there's the P's on there to say, okay, well, I know I'm going to go from, whatever it is, a flying jackal to an MFT. I didn't get there today, but knowing, as soon as I get back, I got the plate. If I'm not going to rest, I just move on to the next task. I don't have to stop and look at the board, set the plate down, pick it back up, that kind of thing. And then I also, I didn't note it on today's workout because it was just brutal from start to finish, but a lot of times I'll look for like resting tasks and I'll actually note it. Like, I know I'm going to be dying here, but hey, I'm going to get a swag in. And, well, maybe it's not a true resting task. It's one where I'm upright and I'm moving and I can catch my breath, as opposed to, like a bandit where I'm bent over and I know I'm not going to really catch my breath. So that's kind of what I do. Trying to figure out too, like, and I think Ellery mentioned it last time, points throughout the workout. Like I think I can have 40 tasks done at the 29-minute mark if I'm, on track to maybe finish or get a good score.
Well, I noticed, you gave me one of those sheets like, it might have been 2 months ago now.
Yep.
And I think you were also trying to figure out like how long it takes you to do each one. Is that correct?
Yeah. I'm not. That's the one area I certainly have not mastered. But
well, I think it's virtual. If you're sending it to other people and saying like, "Hey, you got to finish this by this time," it's impossible to know everyone's pace because everyone's unique and different. But I'm guessing that's what this is.
Yeah. So basically, what I initially did was I just tried to assign a time for every task, and it was wildly inaccurate. And so then I kind of gave up that endeavor and I went and said, okay, whatever the index is, I'm going to say a 1A takes 20 seconds regardless of the task. A 1B and C is 30, 2s are 35, by the time you get to 7s, it's a 2 to 3 minute task depending on what it is. Add it all up, and then at the end I figure out how long I think it'll take me to do the workout. Like today I said 55 minutes, I didn't finish, but it's getting more and more accurate and closer to...
Is it closer to accurate to you specifically?
Yeah, it's to me specifically for sure. So I did, I managed to finish a couple workouts this month and I was within like 30 seconds of that time and each time I finished. So
let's, not to jump topics, and I should say off the bat, this I can tell that this podcast is going to be geared towards the Cyphus nerd in all of us.
Sorry.
No, because whoever's watching is really going to have to know what the heck we're talking about, because I know there's some other things that you wanted to discuss that are really kind of getting into the nitty gritty. But you just recently finished your first workout.
Yep.
And then you put together a few finishes after that. Yep. In your opinion, what does it take for you to be able to finish a workout?
So for me, I think we all have certain strengths and weaknesses. Mine, I think, has gotten to be the cardio piece, like being able to go almost the whole workout without taking a significant rest or knowing where those rest points are where I'm still moving. For me, it's crawls and pushes. Like if I did put my no rest on here, my goal is for any crawl, any push, I don't rest. I go from 1 to 4, 4 to 1 without stopping. Like when we did the barn burner on the 4th of July, I put in the last time through when you had to do them 4. I don't know, I think it was like 4 takeoffs, 4 bulldozers, 4 inchworms, like back to back to back without a rest. And I just, I finished that one and I just crushed it, And that's where my strength is. If it's a workout that has a vertex and I have to do 5 benched or 5 stork or 5 halo, I know I'm not going to finish because those are the ones that slow me down. So I think it's a bit of knowing your strengths and weaknesses too. But I think it takes, for me, some people are naturally just so fast. But for me, it takes prep and it takes really kind of pinpointing where those rests are to finish.
Now, I know that you finished workouts. I haven't done it in a while, but when I was able to finish workouts, it was a mental kind of switch. It was like there was a difference between, okay, today I'm going to finish and today I'm not going to. And Frankie and I used to joke around about this. Like when you go in with the mentality like I'm going to try to finish this workout, it's not as fun. You're pushing yourself and you're quote unquote dying when you're doing it. How is it? How do you feel? Like, what do you think it takes to finish a workout?
Well, for me, there's two different ways for me mentally finishing. When I'm going first thing in the morning, I may have looked a little bit at the slope, how many tasks there are, and what it goes up to, and I'll just if it's 92 tasks and under, and at the 45 task mark, if it's like between 400 and 450, that to in its tasks that I don't like, that I don't hate, then I'll approach it going in blind really, but approach it like, okay, if you get to here, at 30 minutes, then you're going to have a chance to finish. And then that's when I'll start doing the math afterwards to see how many tasks I have left with the time. Other times when I'm working a longer shift and I see people that
Makes
go,
a big difference.
then I have other markers based on what they did, and I can see, whereas I could have done the workout and maybe got through the first circuit alone in 16 minutes, but if I watch someone do it and they got through it in 14 minutes and I go in saying, I want to do this in 14 minutes, it seems to just happen. Maybe it's just something in my head where maybe I would have walked in between the two rampants, but I know I want to do this in 14 to get where I want to be, so I don't do that. And I think that's the difference in finishing and having that big plan. And I just, it's mentally taxing sometimes. So sometimes it's just I don't want to get all that info on my own. So I'm like, I'll just see where it goes, and then
That's
30 minutes left. If it looks like it's going to happen, then I might,
I think
go a
that's the
little harder.
experienced cypher. That's what, like, I just show up calm. I don't unless I'm doing a competition like March Mayhem or something like that. I'm not picking apart the workout. But that's just it. It's like we get to the point where I'm just gonna show up and do it, and
and I'll look too, just because I'm seeing who, because I'm working too, so I'm seeing who's here, what I'm gonna, I know where I'm gonna have to show people, who I'm gonna have to show and when. So that's what I'm looking for now, more so than for me where I'm gonna get. It's how it's gonna go for the day.
that's true. I think one of the important things you said was looking at how many exercises there are in the entire workout. That's going to tell you right then if you're going to be able to finish the workout. Dividing it by 2 is also, for the most part, a good indicator. It just depends on what comes early. Like today, those first 5 exercises. I mean, there's 36 that are in the warm up. That warm up, it just throws everything off.
What's funny is when I looked at this, or I'm sorry, when I wrote this.
Yeah.
Just writing it, I'm like, there's no way I'm going to come close to finishing this. So I didn't even look at anything coming in this morning. And about halfway through, I don't remember where it was, but I went with Bill, and he was a few tasks ahead of me. And by the time he got to the Zion, I'm like, okay, he's going to finish.
Yeah.
And I got way farther in it than I thought I was. So that's the sort of thing where, like, if I would have,
In hindsight,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
if I would have made any effort, I probably could have. But it just looks so daunting writing it. I'm like, all that B thing just gonna take. It's just slow. On top of the L cycle is just inherently slow because all the tasks. There's nothing you can speed through on. But it flowed good. It was cool. I liked it.
So I could tell you my mentality coming up with this one is that I didn't think that I thought the L cycle in the beginning was going to be so much faster. I thought it was going to be maybe 20 minutes rather than the 30, 35 it was taking most people. So I'm like, I'm going to slow people down by giving you all those bridges, which in retrospect, both of them were slow.
It's for me, I don't know what happened, but while I was working out, for some reason I got the kamikaze and squat jump reversed when I was in the Laura. So I'm like, okay, when I get done with piston,
Start
kamikaze is going to be my break, and then it was squat jump. I'm like, and then I'm like, because that's where I was going to drink water too. I'm like, well, I'm not even going to drink water now for another 20 minutes. It was brutal.
Jeez. Interesting. Yeah. So you were asking me kind of off camera.
What, you guys are eating pizza?
While we're eating pizza, Antoinette.
Thanks, Antoinette.
If I could turn the camera around, we got 2 full pizzas for 3 guys here, and it looks like Logan.
I had like 4 pieces. So full.
So full. But thank you for that. I think Logan and Sal are gonna have a lot of extra pizza to wake up to. You had obviously you got a lot of notes you sent me here, and the more the merrier. But you asked me some questions regarding task evaluation, and I've done various videos, kind of a little bit on shedding some light as to how I value a certain task. And let's just say I come up with a new task. I'm trying to think of what was recent, like Jawbreaker.
Sorry,
It's not going on.
Jagger.
Jawbreaker, the sideways jiggy crawl.
Yep.
So nowadays it's very tough to actually come up with a task, but the simplest thing to do is to figure out what it's closest to value-wise. Back in the day, it wasn't really, I couldn't do that. I had so few that you kind of had to have a different approach. But what I do is I have pretty much four different criterion in which I kind of value it. One is time. I mean, obviously that's like the number one thing. How long does it take for the average person to get back 4 to 1? The next thing I do is I centaur 3 it. I multiply it by 3. I don't think of it in terms of doing just one.
Okay.
I think about how hard it is if you were to do that exercise 3 times. Then I factor in 2 other things that are either going to bump it up or down. One's the residual effect. So the residual fatigue. So if you're doing that jawbreaker 3 times, how much slower is that third one going to be? Okay.
Very.
And then the last one is cheatability. And that's the big one that affects some of the questions that you asked me. If somebody is doing their 3rd trombone, what's that 3rd trombone look like if somebody's winded and tired and really
and
is
it's
not
getting all the way out there? Right.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
So that's going to devalue a score. If the task is very uncheatable and it's very hard to cut corners, like a plate push, it's going to stay pretty much the way it is.
Gotcha.
But I initially give it a certain value that I think it's going to be close to. I give it a month, 2 months, 3 months, just to see how it goes. And then if I'm noticing it's getting morphed into something else, or there's easy ways around it, if it's a plus run, plus Tarzan exercise, I may bump it down a little bit. Things like explosions. Explosions is a perfect example. Explosions should be valued much higher than it is, but not everyone's sprint is an all-out sprint. So unfortunately, the people who go all out are going to get penalized because they are going that hard, and they have to take a rest before the next task. So
that was big time in the
4th of July.
4th of July.
Yeah,
Because it was explosion was the last.
Yeah, do those 4 at the
Totally.
end too.
yeah. That's why, I mean, there was
Because it's a 2A, but if you do it right, you can do it in like 10 seconds.
Those
right?
ended up being my fastest ones because I didn't have anything to do after it. You know.
Yeah, that was it. Done when you're done.
It's just, you can see that in the score. So if you click on, the statistics for, the 4th, I wasn't around, so I actually haven't even looked at that. But if the scores are really, really high, then chances are, that they're, put it this way, back when it was worth a lot more that I thought it should be valued at, people were scoring off the charts. So then I start reeling it
They're
back.
getting like 15 points for an explosion or something.
Right. And it's unfortunate that's kind of what it should be worth because you're spiking your heart rate and it's killing you for the next task, but not everyone does it that way. So it's usually, not really throwing a dart, but all right, we're going to guess this is where it's at, and that's usually in comparison to other tasks like it. Then I give it like some time to breathe, and then I revalue it again. And then over time, like years, I'll revamp it a little bit more based on how people score. Now, back in the day, the first 2 years I was coming up with this, I would be with a stopwatch, like timing people, how long it would take them to do 3 of them. So the first bear crawl took 1.5 minutes. The second one took like 1:40. The next one took 1:50. And then what I would do is, it's funny because I've got this email that I sent to Tim, the owner of Harrison Township. This is back in 2014. I would send out essentially a spreadsheet survey of their perceived effort on every task. And then they would pretty much put their value, and I think I had it from like 1 to 100, 1 being the easiest, 100 being the hardest. Take all that data, put it in with what I already have, and that's pretty much what came up with the basis for like the scaffolding of what we currently have as like the task values. Once you have enough points and tasks, you can start comparing it to other things.
Sure.
So, but the Centaur 3, the residual effect, the time, and then the cheatability. And the cheatability is like, are you bumping it up or are you bumping it down?
The cheatability is really important when you say it because, like I think explosions is a great example because I can remember there at the end though, after you did whatever, it's hard to go all out 3 in a row. You almost are in a jog like you're doing, a bonsai or a gallo because it's hard to, where maybe you're using those to catch your breath a little bit. Right. Explosions you're not really supposed to.
You're not supposed to, yeah.
But you're hurting, so you kind of are, yeah.
Yeah. And this would be the position where I would say, like, just rest until you're able to go 100%. But who's really doing that when they know that they could score higher?
Right, the clock is ticking kind of thing. Yep.
The ego gets in the way, and you want to keep going. I get that. But I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like you don't want to penalize the person who's going all out, but at the same time, it's a good way to kind of balance things, even scores out from the people who are going to go slower and get a higher score. So I think Cypress is the only sport, or one of the only sports, that sometimes the better you are at something, the worse you're going to score. And I mean, I'm trying to think of another one that's like that. It's like if I do my squantos like today, or my thrust to frog absolutely the right way I should, I'm probably going to score lower than the person who's not doing it that way.
Right. Yeah, I guarantee my last squantos, probably I didn't jump quite as high as my first squantos, just because I did 300 of them or whatever.
360, I think. Yeah. But it goes back to form first, and this jump, the single jump that I'm doing on this squanto, is what I'm doing right now. So that's the most important thing. It's not, okay, what my next one is. Okay, I got to do swagging next. It's just trying to do the right form in that moment, and not trying to forecast too much down the road, even though in theory you want to hold a little bit back because you want to be able to compete, down the road. Sure,
you want to have energy for the next 40 minutes or whatever. Yep.
Yeah.
Understood. I did have one specific question around that, and I got my notes here. Just about one set of tasks. Let me see if I can find it here.
I had a mod today for someone needed one for thrust to frog, and I was surprised that reverse plate push was an option. Because based on your 4 things, those 2 just seem...
You can't cheat it. Reverse, as you're saying.
Well, I think if you can do 3 reverse plate push without stopping. I don't think there's any chance you can do 3 thrust to frog without stopping.
So I also there's other minor factors, but I think of Harrison Township. Reverse plate push is probably one of the hardest exercises. So I got to think about that too.
Yeah.
You got to think of turf conditions. Yeah. Plate shake, trombone, and trumpet, or plate shake.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So my question is,
ask about trumpet.
Yeah. No. So one of my nemesis tasks, like I said, upper body is where I struggle a lot if I have to do a bunch of certain tasks. So stork is always a question of mine. Curl walk is a 6+, and to me it's kind of mirrored by flamingo. Well, one leg, 6 reps, in place, and then trombone is a 6+. But then stork is 20 reps, one leg in place, and I always find that they don't really add up. If you look at their indices, they're kind of in alignment, but there's so many more reps in stork than there is in flamingo.
Yep.
Just curious as to why.
So there's a few ways I can answer that. One is just that's just the way it is. No, but truthfully, it's if I throw a task in at a certain valuation, it's okay, I didn't reel it back far enough to be congruent with something else.
Sure.
But
I mean, do you go in and say, okay, well, we're designing this task, how many reps should it be? Because obviously there's things that you're like you say, a Rambo is harder than a Rampage, or different things where it's well, 2 more of this, or
curling should be harder than doing this, and it should be, a stork should be essentially like a trombone, maybe slightly closer.
Okay.
Because if you're going all the way out and you're on one leg, I don't want someone falling forward.
Right.
The other thing is what you guys see as tiers. So the difference between A, B, C, D in one tier is so minuscule, honestly, if you had just one task between B and C, you wouldn't probably even see a difference. Maybe a point or 2, whereas I would have to string maybe 10 together for you to see a significant difference. So,
sure.
Between a 2C and a 2B or whatever it is, it's very, very minor. But I was looking back, so I knew you were kind of giving me this question. I think the main reason why these are broken up the way they are is I've got plate shake as 2A, I have trumpet as 2B, and then I have trombone as 2C. So I think I wanted to stay pretty similar to that, but I think your question is probably more for stork and flamingo then, isn't it?
Well, in reality, it's more the stork and flamingo piece.
I wonder, I'd have to look at it, but if Kiss of Death is similar to stork and being 20/20, and maybe what that is, because I'm trying to keep them similar in nature. I will look at, I'll look at flamingo. What is it? What do I have behind it? What do I have in front of it? No, that doesn't make sense. And it's impossible to do that with everything.
Oh yeah.
But again, it gets cheatable towards the end. It turns into this, which is nothing. I mean, you're doing something, but it should be valued probably even higher. Flamingo's a little bit harder to cheat, but...
No. Well, it's funny you mentioned KOD because that was kind of my other question too. Because I always try to do like a full trombone with KOD, and doing it once is okay. But if, once again, that's another one. If it shows up like 4 or 5 times, I'm toast.
Yeah.
You know, by the end. And it looks like that's one that not everyone does, like a full trombone. Like
at a minimum, like if this KS3 hat is my plate, get past, at least past your knees.
Okay.
But ideally, it should be all the way out like a trombone. You like that? I say just try to get the plate past your knees. Try not to cross the legs. Try not to touch the feet if you can. But yeah, it's more trombone-ish. And one of the plate shake is trombone is what the original task of plate shake was supposed to be. So we had trombone, but we called it plate shake first. But then people inevitably did this, so we came up with 2 different tasks to devolve the 2 and have two different. And then trombone came in between to show the difference between those plate shake and trombones. So a lot of the tasks, we start with the harder one first, and then, all right, we scale it back because it's turning into the easier version of it.
Sure. So actually, that is just another question. I just have like a billion questions, but like, you know, there's certain tasks that have numbers. And do they always have numbers at the start? Like traveling tasks, like Ali.
None
you know,
of them
it's like some turfs call it 22 plus, some call it 44 plus, depending on what you're counting. Did that start like that, or is it just some people would fly down there and like 8, and then you'd be like, hey, nope, you're taking too big of steps? Or
that's a really good question. We didn't have any plus, like indicators plus, until we saw things like
probably like Halo, right?
Halo was the first one for sure. Halo was the first one, 36 plus. And then I was like, shoot, you know, well, we got to start doing this with other ones, because I would see curl walk. Curl walk would be 3. Some people would do 3.
Sure.
Plate per line. That's
but then you're looking at someone who's doing twice that, and they're doing 2 more tasks than the other person.
Right.
So at a minimum, you should be doing whatever the indicator is plus, because that way you got to streamline it, because there's a million ways to cut corners the other way.
Oh yeah.
And that's another reason why you may see that drop in a lot of people's scores, because we didn't monitor that, and you still got to monitor yourself. Most people aren't going to be pros are going to be counting that. But
when you say 22 or 44 for outlet, what are you counting?
Me or
so I count each foot. So for me it's 44. That's how it was always written at Royal Oak.
I think Royal Oak and Shelby do
44.
To there?
44 there and 44 back. Yep. But it's the same as your 22. But you're counting your right foot every time, or your left foot every time. Where I'm counting right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left.
And the only reason that's not uniform, because pretty much everything else I'm like, you know, count like hot coals.
Yep. 1, 1, 1, 1.
Yes.
2, 2, 2, 2.
So I can see why people would be like, oh, why isn't it 44? Because you're not counting every step or whatever. But I can't count the 44 when I'm going sideways.
Right.
I just want to count the 1 foot. And I know that I'm at least doing.
Yep.
You know, that's the only reason why I have that as 22.
For me, it really helps to keep my pace up, because then I'm like, or like swagging, it's 9. You know, everyone, I just know if I'm getting tired, it'll be a bigger number. I need to refocus. Like if F lunge becomes 17 because I'm fatiguing and maybe I'm not as focused as I need to be, it's like, okay, I need to focus. It's not going as smooth as it should. But then there's funny, because there's like modifications of those tasks. Like when we had to do Groot slang, I'm like, well, it's going to be 12 because it's still an inchworm, but it was like 15 or whatever.
You're only getting as far as your elbows at best.
Yeah, as opposed to like maybe my wrists. Yeah,
that's a tough one. I like it though. I like doing it.
I actually liked it too.
I love doing it, because every time I'm done, you have just a forearm track of sweat the entire way.
But you know, I would imagine at like Brownstown and probably even Shelby, it's probably really painful.
It's prickly.
Because I know in Royal Oak it was a lot.
I've done it at Brownstown. It wasn't fun.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not fun here either, but I mean, that turf is so high.
Yeah, it is. I try to tell people that here. The people that complain about it here,
you can go there and try it.
You should try it there. You know? I mean, it's abrasive. I mean, it's not like you can't do it, but
yeah, there's really, I mean, if it's sticky here, it's definitely sticky at the other places, and it's worse. So there's really never anything to complain about here, you know.
Yeah,
compared to
we keep it cold. I mean, we do keep it 69, 70 degrees.
It's hot in here, man.
Right now it's hot.
In this morning, you know how you always say, like, you notice you're sweating at like 10 minutes?
Yeah.
I was sweating like 3 minutes in.
Seriously?
Oh my God, I was drenched. It was gross. It was gross.
That's rough. Yeah, it's almost like the first, like 50 minutes, I'll have my first little bead of sweat come off. Now, you went to Shelby yesterday, or was it?
Saturday.
How was that?
It was great. It was great. I've been to every turf but LA now. So
me too.
I'm hoping to get out there.
Yeah.
But no, it was cool. Both Jim and Jen were there, and they ran right before us. So the turf was different. You know, every turf has a little bit of uniqueness because it's such a long, facility. And the one thing I'm always looking for is to find the clock, and then to find where the board is. And their board is in a slightly different spot because it's on the wall on the side, so you almost have to look up. So that was a little bit of an adjustment. But,
that's a little different. The clocks I always put at the far end, so you're looking down there.
Yep.
But like I was telling you earlier today, is when I was building Shelby, I almost, it was long enough for me to actually do two turfs butting up to each other. And you would in order to do it, you'd have to share what would be the fourth end zone and turn them on their back. But I mean, that would be a heck of a lot of turf to go wall to wall. And we also had to build the showers there, so that kind of ate a little bit into the space. But it's amazing. Like, that's got a long distance, so it almost feels like maybe that's a little bit longer. Harrison's the same thing, and then Royal Oak felt shorter because the wall is right there.
Right. Yep.
So Brownstown's more comparable to here. I think it feels similar.
Yeah, because there's a little room past that far.
Yeah. Brownstown's still like one of my favorite. Like, from the outside, especially looking at it, it's just beautiful. The fishbowl.
So I worked at a Blockbuster Video.
Did you really?
In college, and I actually worked at the one in Brownstown like 1 or 2 times.
That's hilarious.
Seriously?
Yeah, when I used to be a Blockbuster.
I looked at the one on West Road and Telegraph, I think it is.
Yeah.
So we were deciding between that space and the other space. The other one was just too big and kind of awkwardly set up. But
There's one Blockbuster left.
Is it really?
One.
Yeah. Or is that like the original one?
It was a great college job.
Just
Not bad, yeah.
It just came up. I don't know why. A different one must have closed or whatever, but yeah,
So
one left.
You did another try this weekend?
I tried, yeah.
You tried another
on
try?
Saturday.
But you did well, right? At least I saw a picture of you getting a trophy.
Yeah,
How'd that go?
it was good. It was, we had talked before about if I had a goal or whatever, and I wanted to do at least better than my time from last year. I was going up in an age group, so in terms of placing, I didn't know what to expect because the age group I went into usually has the most people and the most competitive, So starting out on a swim, when I got out of the water, I looked at my watch when I was going to start my bike, and I was like 4 to 6 minutes slower than I was last year, and it didn't seem like that in the water, so it really messed me up early on.
Yeah.
And then I started biking, felt really, really good on the bike, and I turned a corner where we're supposed to be ending, and we're not ending, so the course was longer, the bike course was longer. So now this is just messing with my head now. My numbers are off, everything's off, and I did very well on the bike, so I knew I was doing good, but everything's just longer. And then I'm sure you guys have run races before, so usually when you're running a race and you're keeping your time via watch or something, you're going to hit the first mile on your watch before you actually see a mile sign, just from running laterally, going around people, whatever. This time, I'm passing the mile mark. My alert hasn't gone off that I've run a mile, and I hate to look before. I get that too. And I'm like, well, what's going on now? I was like, did I even start my watch? Like, what's going on? I look, and my watch was saying it was like I had a 1/10 of a mile left. So now this has just completely thrown me off because now I don't know how long, because it's an out and back run. So after a mile, I'm like, okay, I have a half mile, and then I'm turning around, but it was just they messed up the course. They changed the finish from last year, so the run was longer than what it was marked. So it was just it was my fault. It was just a mental block on all three disciplines.
All three disciplines.
But I ended up doing great, and it was about a 7-minute difference in terms of length for me. So I was 7 minutes slower than last year, but the overall winner was exactly 7 minutes slower than last year too. So the distance that made me feel good. You know,
yeah, totally.
You know, and then I came in third in my
Was it the same
groups.
Winner?
It was the exact same winner. Same winner, and he was 7 minutes slower. So, and he wasn't slow. I mean,
sure,
it's incredible. I mean, these guys are to bike as fast, or to swim as fast as they do, to bike as fast as they do, and then go out and do like a 6:10 5K is just so annoying. It's just incredible. It's
really
unbelievable,
especially in the heat too and everything.
It was early. It wasn't
on Saturday.
Yeah, it wasn't that bad. We were probably running at about I don't know, 7:45 by that time. It was fine. Yeah, but no, it was cool. That triathlon it's fun. It's not, you know.
Which one is it?
It's in New Baltimore. It's Anchor Bay.
Okay.
So it was the first one I did. So it's one I like to do a lot. You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a good time.
Sweet. So what was your time?
1:17.
1:17.
Yeah.
And that was first in your age group, you said?
Third.
Third in your age group.
So it was so the first in my age group was 1:16:30.
Oh wow, it's close.
The guy in second was, so I was 1:17:25. He was 1:17:8 or something. The guy below me was tenths of seconds behind me. The night before, Thursday I ran in these tri shoes I have, just so they can slip on. I have really sensitive feet, so I don't like to run in them because I'm just nervous. So I'm like, let me give these a try, because before I'm tying my shoes and it's taking a long time in the transition. So I run in these shoes. I just didn't feel comfortable. I just feel like I could hurt myself. So I have these laces that they're like.
Was it curly?
Essentially that. But there's like a little button you put on them, so it locks it in, good little drawstring.
Yeah.
So I had these before, so I had my wife switch my shoes out. So I had those on, so all I had to do was slip these on and go. So I cut off probably 1:30 in that transition.
Wow. So that's
June. So it was huge. In a race where the distance is so small, every second counts. But I mean, 1.5 minutes is just ridiculous. You know?
And how much swimming have you been doing?
So I did a triathlon last July. I did a triathlon this June, and I did a triathlon in July, and I've swam 3 times. I swam in the triathlon, the triathlon.
Well, you haven't drowned yet, so I guess it's okay.
That's amazing, and that's a testament to what you're doing here every single day. I mean, you pick out anybody who's finished as high as you did. I'm sure all of them are practicing for it and swimming for it, or at least most of them were.
Yeah, I mean, you can see they'll rank you where you're at after each discipline. So I think out of the water I was like 7th out of 15, and who knows how many were there. But I got up to 2nd after the bike, so I made up tons of time on the bike.
But even that's not your discipline. I think running would be more.
Well, yeah, it should be, but that's what was I gonna say? I forgot, but yeah, it was fun. And for me, like getting out of the water is when the race starts for me. Really, you know, it's like survive and then have fun.
Totally. All right, so I'm looking back on a couple of these things because I doubt we'll be able to get on with everything. But you're asking. We talked about music last time with Ellery quite a bit. What's your go-to music when you're on the turf, at least, that you'd like to hear?
So, I was in high school in the 90s, so I'm like alternative rock all the way. And, when I first started in Royal Oak, it was always Chuck, because I was there on the weekend, it was always Chuck. And Chuck would always be like, I don't know, like Linkin Park and, Rage Against the Machine. And so that was really what I was used to.
I always thought it was like Slipknot.
Well, and then it would get more progressive than that. But that was like the soft stuff. Yeah. So that's kind of what my mindset was always, kind of this hard, either rock or rap would kind of push me through. And for the most part, most people don't play that to that extent. I mean, the song here and there, but I would say, you guys are always trying to appeal to everybody on the turf. So, so I get a bit of that. But yeah,
I mean, like a while back, it was like, I still want the music to be unfiltered. Rarely can you go into a gym or Planet Fitness and hear something that's uncensored, hear the rap or rock or whatever
Sure.
it is. I like being able to be that gym that does that because it kind of coincides with what we do on the turf. It's visceral and raw. But at the same time, you got to be careful. I mean, we have like pastors that work out here. We have
Sure.
you know, people that are older that just sounds like offensive. So we got to be, you know, strike a balance.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Now you said you kind of have a certain workout prep. We were talking about mindset last podcast. What do you do, I guess, physically, mentally? What do you do to prepare for a given workout?
Sure. So obviously, you know what I do on paper. The funny thing is, I always work out in the morning. I've done about 80 some runs, and I've only worked out after like 10:30 in the morning 2 times. One was today, and the one was the last run in Royal Oak before it closed. And so my routine is pretty consistent. I mean, I live in Canton, so I should say that I got to prepare for like a 45 to 60 minute drive before I run every time. So usually I get up, I eat before I run every time. So I have a horribly tasting 8-ounce drink of BCAAs and raw apple cider vinegar mixed with water. It's not that bad with the water. And then I take like a multivitamin, a fish oil pill, vitamin C, and then I have overnight oats. It's like 400 calories of overnight oats. I stretch for like 10 minutes, I jump in the car, I come here, stretch for a couple more minutes and run. So that's, today was really weird to try to get that routine figured out, because I mean that's like 80 runs of the exact same thing, and trying to do that at 6:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah. So what's your rituals, man?
Instead of 5 in the morning is, it's different.
The only rituals is not have a ritual.
I thought of another one after we left last week, because I didn't eat dinner last week. So I went to Buffalo Wild Wings to get a carryout, and I remembered that anytime I go somewhere that has hoop fever, the basketball.
Oh yeah.
I have to get the high score if it's there.
So you won't leave until you
I will not leave until I get the high
I
score.
would love to be sitting like having dinner with my family, so I'm like, who is this guy?
This
just
crazy
playing?
guy. The thing is, there's only been like 3 times where it's cost me too much money, but for the most part, $1 to $4, and I'm
See,
good.
I used to be that way with Photo Hunt. Those bars.
Oh, yeah.
I used to be that way totally, because Meredith and I would play together, and you know. But yeah, that's exactly how it was.
So what'll happen is we'll go out, and my friends know I'll do this. So I'll go over there, and there's times where we'll like be competitive and play. Other times when I'm just doing it just to be done with it, they'll go and beat me on purpose so that I have to go back there.
That's funny. And that's the mentality of a sightless trainer. Right
I
there.
like me, one thing, I grab the same 35-pound plate every time. I
let's
look for the
talk
same
about
one.
that.
I did it at Royal Oak. I always had the same plate. I bought the plate from Tim when Royal Oak closed, and I use the same plate here every time. Yep.
That's funny. Is it the plate that you bought?
Here?
Yeah.
No,
Oh, okay.
no.
So
It's a different plate, but I use the same plate here.
That's something I've always thought we would do eventually. Is be able to, everyone has their own plate. You can put decals on it. You know, paint it, whatever it is you
But
want.
no, so when I get here, I grab it like 10 minutes early to make sure nobody else grabs it, because that's the plate I prefer to use.
You use the same one or close to, don't you?
I've been switching lately, but I mean I use that one probably like 200 workouts in a row.
The 119.
Yeah.
I like that one a lot too. The most notable one is Suzanne, or the 43 that we call it. That Bill uses, and a lot of people want that one. And that's the one I started. That's the one I used when I started Sight. So I mean, I've got a certain affection towards that, but I usually use the one that was the orange one. The orange one. They used to have like an orange triangle on it, but it faded away a while ago. So you asked me about when to go up in weight, or if I think that we should do like a workout that like urges people to go up. I don't really like that idea, just because I don't want to push people to go up in weight when they're not ready.
Yep.
But when do you know that you're ready to go up? And we've discussed it before. I think the bully is a good indicator. If you can go there and back and you're not dropping it at all, that's a good way. But cyclone's another good one. If you're doing cyclone well in the middle of a workout when you're already tired and you're not, falling into the weight, you're controlling the weight, you're not letting the weight control you, that's a good indicator. And I think also if you're finishing the workouts on the regular, then why not try to, challenge yourself? So you're kind of getting to that point where you're able to finish a workout. Maybe you're looking for something to mix it up, challenge you a little bit more, maybe slow you down a little bit. The only thing that's really going to be affect it is the upper body stuff, the carries, the pushes, and the inchworms and stuff like that. It's not that different. If anything, and more surface area might be easier in some regards.
For hikes and stuff like
Hikes,
that.
your bucks, all that, it's going to go further.
Really?
Yeah. It like has like more momentum behind it, so it just keeps going.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, my only concern would be, like I said, the upper body stuff is where I struggle, but then again, that's where I need to get better, so maybe the more weight would help me get better at it too.
The other thing is too, you got to consider your overall weight and how it is. I mean, you're pretty skinny, so it's like comparative. And I'm the same way. Like I used to be like 195, carrying that weight. The 45 felt much lighter. Now I'm like 180. It does feel heavier.
Sure.
And when I try to use the 55, I tried it once last year. I'm like, this is way too heavy, and you feel it in your joints immediately. So if you get that response with the 45,
Right.
it's not worth it.
Oh.
But the 55 is heavy.
It's really heavy. It's too heavy. For
But Joe,
me.
you said you started with a 25 at one point, right?
Yeah. When I used them all.
The usual, like when we teach somebody, like you kind of profile somebody a little bit, like how big they are.
Yeah, Chuck was like, 35, the first time. He looked at me and he said, yeah, start with the 30, which was right, for sure.
And I almost always start guys with the 35, but I don't know how you got the 25.
Because I walked in and I think I was the only one here and Frankie wanted to leave, so I kind of probably pissed him off.
You're using the 25.
Yeah.
So he taught you your first one? Yeah. I don't think I've ever asked you like how that went. I mean, you told me like, yeah, you came right back, but it's funny hearing that Frankie taught you his first time.
Yeah, there was nothing, there was nothing memorable. I mean, he wasn't...
It was just you two?
Yeah.
That's funny. Gosh.
He definitely wanted to leave.
And you know how it is now, too.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
He just asked me the other day, he goes, who's this Frank that's signed up or slated to teach a class, next Sunday or whatever it is? I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, there's this new Frank, Delora, and I go, he's the one that changes like like who's the pro for the day, and they're like, is it Frank Delora? Is that the person that came up with the Delora task? And I'm like, yeah, actually it is. So he broke his wrist or something. He had something going on from hockey, and he couldn't actually do bulldozer, and so he had like the other hand off to the side. I don't know, it was something like that. But that is another question you had was wrist or knuckles down.
Oh, yeah. Because I only see the knuckles down here.
And that's because I kind of teach people to do it. Like usually in initiation, I will say, if you would prefer to have your knuckles down, it keeps the wrist in a neutral position.
Yep.
And too much of this in the beginning, I'll hear people all the time, oh, my wrist hurts, it bothers my wrist. Well, that either goes away. I also use that opportunity to say you can wear gloves, because a lot of people wear gloves. Eventually your knuckles get ugly like mine if you're going knuckles down. But it keeps the wrist in a neutral position, but also gives you like more surface area. Not surface area, like more range of motion. So I can get my feet up a little bit further because it's giving me like, I guess maybe 2 extra inches.
Oh, yep, I can see that.
Being up tall. But then it's also like I don't have those fingers in my way and extending at my wrist, so I'm able to get up further.
I only do. I just said, here's my hand. I never do it on crawls. I've noticed I've been doing it with one hand for revival. I'll do it with one hand. And peg leg.
I do it for everything.
I don't know why, because I don't like doing it on crawls at all. But for some reason, when I'm doing revival, I don't know why. Just that stretch there, it just works for me.
I do it when I'm on the turf and I go to stand up. I do it, but I don't do it for any tasks.
I do it for everything except for I think like a CHB. Like the sideways crawls are just kind of hard.
Yeah, that would be tough.
Yeah,
that'd actually be harder. It seemed like.
Oh, it is harder. Yeah. Favorite task? Like, what's your favorite?
Well, I said I love crawls and push. I don't think there's any crawl or push that I would say I dislike. I mean, initially, I hated Wicca. I hated CHB. Like the mogul legs were super hard, but I've grown to like them. But if I had to say my favorite, I love Toro and Thrasher.
People always say Thrasher.
But I actually like Toro better, and I actually get to do Toro today. I love Inchworm, Anaconda. Funny thing is, I really like reverse BNC. Like, I just feel like it flows, but I don't like BNC going
regular
forward. I feel like it's awkward. Like my feet just don't.
Yeah, I see that.
Move right, but reverse, I feel like I can just fly.
He asked me that a while ago. He asked what a real quick task was, and I said that, and he thought I was like joking around. I'm like, no, I really fly doing it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it is a good one.
Yep. So yeah, I'm always drawn to the crawls and pushes.
Reverse zookeeper needs to happen.
with a Toro or through the legs.
And then you do a reverse crawl.
Totally
to
do
it.
that.
Yeah, you could totally.
Do I may have
It's
it
in there.
Okay, yeah, we'll do that. I've already got August done, but we'll do that. There's no, yeah.
You know, one question on that though, because I actually one day, Joe, you and I were running next to each other. And I forget if it was Toro or Thrasher, or maybe it was even Ape Shoot. I noticed sometimes when you like throw the plate, it comes off the ground, like it slaps down. Whereas mine always is like a smooth slide. Do you do it intentionally, or is it just kind of the inertia?
It was probably spikes.
Spikes or 3-point stance. That's what I was going to say.
Oh, okay.
Because that workout had a lot of throws like that. I don't like doing it. It just happens.
Okay.
It's not coming all the way off the ground, you know.
Right.
It's just that little lip.
Yep.
But other people have thrown it, which is just not good.
I have holes in the wall over there from people throwing it. Yeah.
Really?
So we can say keep the plate on the turf. You're doing yourself a disservice if you're lifting it up because it's just going to stop.
And it's dangerous.
And I don't think he means
No,
to.
I was just wondering, like,
The spike. It's the spikes I've seen you do. It comes up and it's like flat. It's just the way he lets it go. If you're doing anything throwing, you don't want it to come up too much. And you also want to knuckleball it. If it's spinning, it's not, for whatever reason, it doesn't keep going.
Thrasher spins for me. That's the one I always notice. For whatever reson, that motion of kind of like pulling like this always gets a spin to it.
It's a bowling throw.
Yeah.
So what about Nemesis or not? I don't want to say. I hate saying least favorite, but what slows you down?
Well, Achilles. Say Achilles, because then that would be. Remember we did that where you picked your
Achilles heel. Yeah.
You know, it's funny because I got only done 80 runs, so it's changed over time because there were some things where I'm like, oh, this is horrible. But the things that consistently kill me are, like I said, it's the upper bodies. Like Vertex is the one I dread. Like I look up there, it's on there tomorrow.
You're saying circuit?
Well, it's if a specific task is in the circuit.
Okay.
Because Vertex, every task you gotta do 5 times. So like if benched is in a Vertex, I'm like, okay, this is really gonna destroy me today. Or Halo. It's funny. It probably comes back to the 36 plus because initially I didn't think Halo was that bad, but I probably wasn't doing 36 reps of it. Now I feel like if I really do Halo right and I'm at the pace where I'm going to do 36, to do like 2 in a row, I think was in the Matterhorn over the weekend. 2 in a row, I need to stop. I can't do 2 in a row.
Right.
So it's usually those kind of tasks. I don't think there's any crawl or push I would consider to be like a nemesis. I feel like, especially if it's only there once, no matter what it is, I can grind it out. At a decent
Trying to think of one like Jigsaw or
even like Jabberwocky and stuff. At first it was like really hard, and then Tim gave me the tip, like start the engine or start the motor before you put it in gear. And for whatever reason that works. That works so great. Like you get your feet going and then your hands follow.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Like Mowgli, that's the way I do it too. It's like get the feet going and then start the hands. And
it's hard to explain sometimes to somebody how to do an exercise. Like
you got to have them stop.
Yeah.
You can't travel. Do it stationary and then start your hands.
Yeah. I know that one I was doing the other day when you had to show me like 4 times. It was I finished that workout. It was the last. Was it Nemesis? Was that the one where it's almost like a
monkey on your feet?
Yeah.
It was like kind of sideways.
Yeah.
And that one, just to get the rhythm down.
Like,
I guess it's no fair to say Nemesis is your nemesis, but that one was super awkward. I had a really hard time. And Joe literally showed me like 4 times. I'm like, okay, I want to finish the workout. The clock's ticking.
Can you hurry up?
Because it was literally the last task. But
for me, Hackett's been rough lately.
Yeah. Have you done many lately?
Yeah.
Okay.
We did it. I was actually at Harrison 2 or 3 weekends ago, and it was the one where it was the first circuit. It was like you did the first 5 tasks, and then 6 through 20 you picked the order.
To-do list.
Yeah, and Hackett was 6, and I just made everyone go in order.
No, it's so funny. It's like I put that there in attention. I'm like, if I were doing it, I probably would do that as long as I'm warm.
That's the thing. So it's 6 tasks. Yeah. So for me, that task is usually deep in a workout.
Yeah.
So you're inherently going to go slower just because of where it is.
Right.
So when it's 6, you're like, okay, you're fresh, get out of the way. It still took me just as long as it would have if it was the 55th task I did,
Mm-hmm.
But and I can't say that for other tasks that are difficult, but I would have been able to get through them faster than if they were deeper.
There's no way to do it fast, though.
But I can't do it and not stop. I have to stop.
Yeah, no, I know. I think most people are that way because it's just so much like.
That's
really, if you can really get your weight on your hands for that extra split second. That's the key.
Without falling on your face.
It's just so hard to do. Because that gives you that just extra relief for that big hop back.
That's true.
Because that's how I get through single leg inch without having to stop. Is when I'm pulling up, I'm getting all my weight on that hole. You know what I'm saying? So I'm pulling up, and then my foot's coming on the hole, and it just relieves.
Oh, you're going like
inch?
flat-footed?
Yeah.
For a second?
Yeah.
Huh.
And it just relieves all the pressure.
Yeah, no.
Crawl out, pull it again.
I'll have to try that.
There's
Because then it kills me.
I've never done that.
Yeah.
Single. I think I still come up really, really high and get as far as I can. I don't think I.
I would show you, but I have
Yeah.
fanny packs on.
fanny packs.
Maybe tomorrow.
I'm trying to think. What else? What else? Is there anything you want to hit on?
Let's see. What else did I have?
I mean, you
out
had
there?
a few things.
I know. I had some good notes that I prepped.
Do you keep track with your watch?
I do. I actually I wore a heart rate monitor on my chest for a while, which is why I actually started wearing the compression shirt, because it stayed in place better.
Oh, okay.
And then I just got used to the compression shirt and never went away from it, because
funny.
it never.
You make me sweat just watching. I'm like, what is he's in like a snowsuit in here. It's 100 degrees.
And you know what's funny? I actually like to wear the long sleeve one better.
Yeah.
And I stopped wearing it though in the summer because Michelle was like, "Are you crazy? What are you doing?"
Yeah, it is crazy.
So I would always get it would say I burned like 200 more calories with the heart rate monitor than the Apple Watch.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
And so it would say 1,000 calories every time with the heart rate monitor. And then after like a few months, like every time I do pinned, it kind of sucked. So I kind of gave up wearing it.
We used to sell them. I used to be a distributor of Polar.
And that's what it was. It was a Polar that I wore. Yeah.
Well, that one's big too, right?
Yeah,
It's like Iron Man.
It's like a thing that sticks out. Yeah, but I found that it hindered people's workouts because they were like, we used to project it on a screen, and everyone in the workout could see their heart rate when they were doing it, and it would be like in the red. We did this before Orange Theory did theirs, and this was back in 2012. And people would like stop and rest because they saw their heart rate was in the red, but they're sitting there having a conversation with me. I'm like, if you can do that, you could probably go.
Sure.
So I thought it took away. It was a bit of a distraction too, when really you want them to focus on the workout and listen to their body. Instead, they're kind of paying attention to something. But another thing you had asked was about competitions. Usually we have three main competitions. We have March Mayhem. We had something called Cyphus Survivor the last 2 summers. We didn't do it this summer just because we didn't have enough heads on it to work through it. And then we'll do Turf Wars. Turf Wars is a really fun time. It's usually the last like 2 weeks of October, and it's every location is pitted against each other. You take their averages, and every single day is like a different game. And you get, I think,
you had to have been there for that last year, right?
So I came in October. So I was and I heard him mention it, but I was still so new, I didn't know what the heck was going on.
You'll know this year, for sure. It's fun though. And then the winners, they pretty much design the workout for all the other locations to do, and the playlist for them to listen to while they're doing the workout. And it's that. No, not March. Turf Wars around Halloween and stuff. Actually, I think the first year we did it, we had a costume like punishment. We did an 80s day.
Yeah, there was a theme.
You guys ever do anything silly like that though? Like wear your costume to the turf day or something?
A couple years ago we did, and I was the only one that dressed up for like such an asshole.
Well, see, we did it. My first year here, 2000, like the full one, it was 2013. It was 80s day. We all did it, but then.
Well, I think I've seen some pictures out there.
Yeah. What did we do another one before?
No, I'm almost positive it was 2 years ago. The punishment was like a zombie or something theme. It was supposed to be, or an option or whatever. So I'm like, the night before, I'm like cutting shorts, cutting my shirt up, making blood, this and that. I come in here and everyone's like, go.
Oh, that's.
No, so I mean, we're definitely open to doing it, but if everyone's going to follow through, I know that LA did one last year, like they're, wear their shirts to, but I don't know. One of the questions I want to ask you is about workout creation. You said specifically that you think we should do more workout creation competitions. I know that you gave me one before. I get them a lot, but the tough thing is I would be open to that. I'm happy that people send me their ideas.
Sure.
The tough thing is finding ones that are unique and different. And it's funny because I'm learning more and more. There's infinite possibilities. There really are.
Sure.
But do you have ideas or?
I mean, I'd have to think about it. I know. Actually, I sent you one idea, and actually, it was kind of in line with your, like, super high slope and like 15 minutes of stretching.
Mm-hmm.
Was I like the hard tasks, and I think, I don't know if it's been like a concerted effort, but it feels like in the last month or so, it seems like there's been more like really high index, like 6 and 7 tasks that show up a little earlier in the workout. So people that don't score as high get an opportunity to do some of those things. And I thought, would it be cool to do something like a 20-somethings workout where there's a warm up and then like, not every task, but a lot of tasks that are worth, 20 points or more kind of show up in, I don't know, a checklist or however it would be, or pick your poison where you get to pick between 2 of them and kind of keep going. Just so, I don't know from like a score perspective how that would work if there were, 40 of those, that's 800 to 1,000 points there. Like, I don't know if that works out.
That's the hardest part, is making it fit within the.
And would people be like, this sucks, right? Like, okay, I just did, this, and now I got to do this, and now I got to, like you almost would have to like throw in some rest in between. Like, for me, I like those tasks, so I probably suffer through it and enjoy it. But even like the speed bumps, I mean, there were people that weren't all that happy last week doing speed bumps, and to have every task be a speed bump might turn some people off.
In the early days, Cyphus was like that. It was like warm up. All right, now it's hard, and then if you get past it, you might get a little bit of a break. But then you hear everyone's feedback. The members, they're like, we don't want to be sitting on the same task for the 5-10 minutes, and I get that. So nowadays it's much more evenly distributed, and that's making for maybe people who are more advanced and more skilled in the harder exercises score lower. But when it comes down to it, with the competitions and stuff like that, I design their workouts so if you've got that kind of experience, you usually do kind of do better because there's less cheatability in the tasks.
Those kind of workouts always elicit the most social media
I bet. Yes,
backlash.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Because
especially for the people that don't look ahead of time. You show up at the turf that day and you're like, what did I walk into?
You're doing, let's say you average 60 tasks. You're doing maybe 40 tasks that day and scoring, minus 180. And it's just, I can see where it's doubly defeating and people aren't trying to have that.
Right.
But then it's also fun too to
and then
complain.
It's never a bad thing to have people talking about it socially, but that's when I come back. I'm like, well, how was your workout?
Right.
It was really good. Well, that's all that matters.
And honestly, the last few times it's happened, it's really not the intent to make it completely miserable and have people not score it. It just sometimes it happens because of the way you have to counterbalance a ton of hard tasks.
Yes.
With 55 sprints or whatever that they're gonna rack up your task total, but you're actually getting negative points, really. So that's the tough part.
You were one of the guys that like sent me a Facebook message that, is there a certain reason why there's a score that's going like negative? It's worth negative.
Like I'm getting penalized if I do an extra task.
Yeah. So that's what I call a phantom task. There are tasks, pretty much everything in like the first like 2 categories essentially. It serves as a diluter. It dilutes the pool of points, and it just makes maybe I've got harder exercises planned later, but I'm trying to keep the slope lower.
Right. So you send you a workout and it'll come out slope 67.
Yeah.
You go over to that first circuit, change that. Boom. It's like a slope 37 now.
And that's what most people don't understand. They're like, oh, why don't you throw all this in here's my idea for a workout, and I'm going to put in all these tasks. He'll be the first one to tell you, even when he's experimenting with it, the slope is like completely out of whack. And it's taken years of practice for me is to like just really refine it and look at it and know like what's got to go where to kind of make it fit in that little Goldilocks.
And so when you're looking at it and trying to think in your head in the moment on how a flow will work, and you got it good, and then the math doesn't turn out right. And then it's not easy.
Then you're tweaking and tweaking.
And then you're tweaking, and then it's not the same thing you had.
Right.
You know?
Right.
It's not easy. Someone else who would know this well is Jen DiMercurio and Kathy, who have helped me with some of the back end stuff.
So, question on slope. So, right, slope is really just a measure of points per task over the course of a workout, more or less, right?
Kind of, yeah.
So, have you ever considered doing like, I don't know what you call it, like a partial slope, or I don't know if it just, I don't know if people care that much like I do, if it would just be confusing, but, you know, I would say typically when I look at it, the first half of a workout, the slope is a lot lower in reality than the second half. So if someone's only, if it's a slope 50, so in theory it's really hard task today, but maybe the first 500 points, the slope is only 25 and the remainder it's 75 or however it breaks down. Do you think there's any value in displaying that to people?
Absolutely. It's a matter of being able to display it. It's every single task, every single half task has its own slope technically. The reason it's always going to be slower or lower in the beginning, and chances are going to be negative because you got to have the warm up in there. And that's really when people score higher, is when it's a higher slope earlier on in the workout.
Yeah, when you're picking up the plate with 59, 55 left.
Yeah.
You know, you're doing weighted crook to start. Yeah. It's going to be a high scoring day.
For sure. The what everyone sees as like the slope is really I'm showing you half of a variable. It's not the entire thing, and it's really looking at it's always the workout as in its whole in the entirety. So that's if you're finishing the workout, this is what the slope is. So even if you just took 3 or 4 tasks off, it's a different slope.
Sure.
So someone like you can kind of maybe reverse engineer it a little bit to kind of figure out, you know, where it's going to be, but I just don't have the ability right now to show you what the slope is at each and every one. Yep. But I was explaining it to somebody else. It's like grading it on a scale. If we were looking at the workout objectively, if you wanted to finish it, this is kind of how we're grading it today.
And that's why I would, like, if you look at the middle task and the points versus the possible points, that's a good indicator too.
I think it's pretty close,
yeah.
And on how it's going to go, you know, first half or second half.
That's true. You even said it though, like kind of yourself, and I'll hear a lot is like, oh well, this exercise is worth 20 points and this one's worth 15 points. That's not how it's generated. It's based on what comes before it. You can even look at, like, you can pick out like a plate push and throw 50 sprints in front of it, or you could put 50 mountain climbers in front of it. The plate push is not going to be worth the same.
Sure.
So the formula kind of morphs and changes organically with the workout.
Yep. I would say, like, for what I do too, that's the biggest challenge, and when I'm trying to calculate how long a task takes is I don't account for fatigue. So you know, if I do it once or 10 times, it's always 40 seconds or whatever, you know, like a squat thrust or thrust to frog.
Yeah.
I say it takes a minute to do it, and okay, maybe I can do the first one in a minute, but that second one is not a minute.
Each one's generally going to be worth more. The one you do later is going to be worth more,
sure,
as it should be.
Right.
And there's a reason why we keep averages. You know, you're not always going to score high. Each workout's not always going to yield a higher score.
Yep.
But averages generally, you know, tell the truth over time. So, but I think I'm going to wrap it up there. I mean, we could probably have you back on and have plenty more to discuss. I mean, I could talk statistics, and I would love to kind of get, you know, in more detail, but I also got to kind of be a little bit veiled in some of the things, especially if it's going to be on, you know, YouTube and social networks like that. Next time, I think you're going to be gone, right? I think I'm going to be having on Brandon Alford. You know him, newer guy. We're going to be talking about kind of the mindfulness of sightless training. He's a therapist, and so we're going to be talking about, he's going to give us some tips on how to kind of be a little bit more introspective and kind of woo-saw a little bit of stress relief, and then also how to approach your workouts from a mindful perspective. So I'm kind of excited about that. It's either going to be next Monday or the following Monday. We'll figure that out when we get there. But Roy, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
For sure. And with that, that's been the Form First podcast. If you have any questions, be sure to give us a shout on the comment section below. And be sure to check out KS3 at ks3lifestyle.com. They are our official sponsors. Joe's got the hat on right now. I got a hat somewhere around here. And ks3lifestyle.com. And you guys have been watching the Form First podcast. Thanks a lot. Cool.
Cool. That was fun.